Hello, I'm Cat, and welcome to my long-term survival world that I've had since October 2012. Today I'm going to be adding the copper golem to it and questioning what it is that truly makes him happy. But first, I'd like to give a quick tip for anyone with a long-term world, and that is whenever you see the wandering trader with a wood trade, always make sure you get it. It's one of those few genuinely no-brainer trades for anyone who has a decent stock of emeralds. Speaking of having a decent stock of emeralds, today I'm going to talk about what it is that would truly make the copper golem happy, because unlike most things in Minecraft that you build to serve yourself, or you build because of the intrinsic built beauty they provide, today I'm going to be adding a piece of art to my world in the form of questioning what it is that would truly make a copper golem happy, because he is one of the cutest mobs that Minecraft have added, and therefore, as a result of him being cute, I care about his results. You know, is that how we should function is a broadly different question we won't ask, but I care about the happiness of the copper golem, and that's why there's an interesting question about what makes him happy, because if you look at him when he has nothing to do, he looks genuinely a bit distressed. He'll open up his chest, and he'll go, okay, well there was nothing in there, but I'm sure there'll be something in there next time, and then he stands around doing nothing until the next time he loads up that exact same chest. Whereas, if you do something, even, you know, maybe you could argue a little bit over the top, let's say you make yourself a small little pathway for this copper golem to follow, so that he has to go along this, just so that he can reach the chest of his dreams. Even if you give him a long and maybe unnecessary path to follow so that he can grab these chests, you'll see that actually he'll be much happier for it. Instead of, oh, I have to give him a step that he can actually use to get up here. Instead of endlessly looking in the chest and finding nothing, instead he finds something to do, and he gets very excited because he knows exactly where to put it. This is a benefit, yes? This is a thing that is good for the copper golem, but the question is, what if we make this chest not just slightly out of the way, but actually we make it an entire journey, we make it an entire struggle for him to locate as we go. And so that is the part of the video that I want to really talk about a lot. As you know, on the Let's Play, we don't just play Minecraft. I like to talk about the questions that it raises, and one of the big ones that has come up is kind of in relation to work, because I think that the modern philosophy on work, based on people on the internet at least, seems to be that it is this great evil that we put up with because we haven't worked out a better system. You know, even the most ardent, lovers of whatever you call our current economic system won't say that it is good in and of itself. By the way, let's scrape him. Let's give him a nice little favor for the work he's doing for us. But a lot of people wouldn't say it's good in an... Wait, did he open the chest and then not grab the item? Oh, okay, he's got it now. That makes far more sense than Lou was doing before. Now let's just break this, and then let's also make sure that there is, in fact, a step up here. And then he should be able to take this information and work on it. Oh, yeah, is he going to? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But what's fun is the fact that there are lots of mobs that just love to have a job, that love to be useful, and this isn't, like, exclusively true in Minecraft. In fact, if you look at the way that many people, you know, even like very serious, quite left-of-center people from like the early 20th century, you know, you'll still hear people like Bernie Sanders saying this today, the desire back then was not universality of anything besides a job. The desire was, oh, is he gonna, yeah, he's gonna have to go, that's close enough for my liking. It means that he is at least willing to go up this far, which means there is probably something we can do to make him go up further. So let's place a block here now. And then let's move the other blocks just to the right of this. So he has to kind of do like a slab up there and there. And then we'll place the final chest just off the wall over here. Actually, I'll place it like one block further up if I can. I've got a feeling that he won't go into it. But let's place that chest just over there and see if he's still interested in putting items into it. He knows exactly what he's got to do. But is he going to do the thing? Oh, it looks like he is. Oh, he's going back to check this chest. But yeah, I'm going to be making an endless source of work today because this used to be the commonly considered desirable, trait. I think if you look back at like major movements, it used to be said that like, yeah, all anyone actually wants is a job, because a job is what provides fulfillment. A job and a sense of self is worth having, even if we have to force it on people, or even if we have to force society to create those jobs for people. Once we have forced the society to create the jobs, people will be happier for having them. I think this has to go a block back so we can hide the hoppers, by the way. I don't want it to be entirely obvious what we're doing here. Because, you know, when it's too on display, it looks very cruel. But if we do it just a little bit nicer, I think things will look more than okay. So let's now move these hoppers just a little bit back here. So we'll move him over here. And all the way at the back, we'll place them just below this block, which will be our brand new chest one. Given that he can get all the way up here, I'm sure he can get all the way up to this. But, you know, maybe I'm wrong about that. Because there is a ceiling right here that can burn you alive if you jump. It could be the Copper Golem can't pathfind there. But let's find out. Let's see what he does as he goes to the top. Yep, works perfectly. Okay, so now we have a system set up. Hopefully one that we can hide very diligently. To make a little mountain... Wait, why can't I place a block there? Okay, we have a system set up that allows me to have a little mountain made of tough blocks that will perfectly create an infinite source of work for the Copper Golem. But yeah, what's interesting is this source of eternal work is something that you would see as a existential fear in the modern world today, rather than as a boon. Rather than looking at this and saying, yeah, what a nice thing you've done, Toy Cat, I think there are going to be some people who are saying, Toy Cat, did you just create the equivalent of a torture chamber for your villager over here? Okay, we need to definitely place more blocks up here. Make sure that it's like a proper pathway for him. Some people would say, no, Toy Cat, what you've created is an eternal village torture chamber, because you shouldn't have to be... Okay, so now let's remove this block to make it a little bit easier for him. I want the pathway to be very, very clear if we can make it so. That is my plan here. Okay, so he's gotten lost. This is a bad thing. This means I just need to put my slab down over there again, and that should solve the problem. Perfect. I think a lot of people would say that, yeah, actually, work is the evil thing. Having a bunch of work to do with no real meaning from it is terrifying. In fact, having a bunch of work to do it all is, in some people's view, the worst thing in the world. The fact that our basic necessities are not taken care of without first asking us to do some work first is seen as one of the great injustices of the modern world. But who is actually correct about this? Well, you can make a political argument, and that's not what I intend to do here, but, if you want to, you can. But instead, I would prefer to make the point that, actually, philosophically speaking, this is a debate that has been running forever by itself as well, and it's one that goes all the way back to the time of Aristotle. Aristotle used to believe, even deep philosophers that you might think are on this work is actually a curse, used to believe that work was specifically very useful as long as it was done not just for the sake of doing it, but it was done for the outside world. Work that you did, say, inside your house, or work that you did for the sole betterment of yourself. You could call this Minecraft work if you wanted to, but work that you did, say, cleaning up your house, is not real work because you're doing it exclusively for you. And so if you imagine a friend who works 40 hours a week but then doesn't have any time to clean their house because they're just so busy all of the time, that is someone who would, maybe you could argue benefit from having 20 hours of their week cut so they can spend those 20 hours a week working on their home, but that actually only benefits them and maybe you if you visit their house, but it's not a betterment to society as a whole. There is a deep distinction, and you could argue that the whole community gets worse if whatever their job is, if it's so important their employer is willing to pay them, if they stop doing that job as much, the whole community and the whole country or whatever you want to say suffers, whereas that person is kind of gaining a little bit in it themselves. And this is something that is a really important distinction when we talk about work, because a lot of people talk about busyness as if it's all the same, a lot of people talk about work as if it's all the same, but there is a huge distinction between not just work that you do to vaguely sustain having a slightly nicer situation for yourself, but also work that you do to make things better for your community. I mean, you wouldn't ever, if we think about on the real hunter-gatherer scale, you would never be yes, I define myself and I think my most important thing I do is getting food for the community. That is important too, sure, and you should spend a lot of time doing that to make sure that you and the people around you can survive, but there's a deeper meaning about actually there is work that you do to keep things moving, which is important, but there's also a second type of work, the what you might want to call the virtue work, where you have to work out not just what you can do to make sure that you survive, but so that you can go above that. And honestly, it kind of sucks on some level. You could argue some amount of this could fit into having a very nice house or whatever you want to argue there, but I think I would argue that there is a type of work that comes in the level of fulfillment personally and for the world. There is something that you can do that will benefit those around you, your community, that will benefit the space around you greatly, but that is, not necessarily something that is very easy to get into. Whereas, anyone could sign up to be a Starbucks. I think I like to use the Starbucks barista as my favorite example of this, because it proves what we've kind of gotten wrong as a society. We used to think that every job created meaning in and of itself. And so, just like the Copper Golem loves to do his thing, it's as long as you were employed doing something, you would find meaning in it. And so every single like politician and everyone has been focusing on the last 40 years for getting the unemployment rate down. If unemployment is high, it is unequivocally a bad thing. When unemployment is low, it is unequivocally a good thing. And so we've gotten it down really, really low historically. There's like a minimum level of unemployment you need to keep that we roughly have. Most economists seem to agree that that's good for for job markets to function. But like outside of that, it's like, yeah, actually we focused on unemployment and we got it super low. And then we said, oh, but some people, like wages aren't that high. And so we made minimum wages, figuring, oh yeah, and that will solve the looking after things problem. But then a lot of jobs in response to having to pay people whatever amount an hour it is in your jurisdiction are like, okay, so we need more from this employee now. And so jobs that should be like, you could argue deeply satisfying, the ones that lots of people dream of. There's a funny concept in the financial independence movement, if you've ever heard of it. It's people's dream is to make enough money so that they can live a decent middle-class lifestyle while being a barista. But like actually working as a barista at Starbucks, as an example, the giant multinational that somehow makes money despite paying all these people this amount an hour, has to optimize their people so bad that people don't actually feel like while they're working there, yes, I'm doing this great thing for meaning. I'm giving people a meeting space, a third space, their daily drink to get their day moving. People don't feel like they're doing that. They feel like, oh yeah, I am doing the things that I need to do because, it's what I need to be able to go home and play games effectively. I am just doing the, what is required of me so that I can go back and get back to myself. And I think that this is an interesting difference. This would have been fine maybe 40 years ago, but now I think it's a basic desire, and hopefully is a desire, for people to actually want work that does something for them. Having an endless source of work isn't in itself a good thing, but instead what is better is having a job that makes you feel like you're doing something good. And I would argue that actually, because we focus so much on the purely just the numbers side on a macro country scale, we've forgotten that actually it's you can start a job that the idea of starter jobs is a controversial one online, but the idea of finding a job that pays you enough money and then finding fulfillment in that later is really, really hard, but kind of expected, whereas the reverse, where you find a job that finds you fulfillment, and then later you try to make that make sense on the money front, that is a easier thing to do, but also it is so much more punishing as a society. And I think if I was giving advice to anyone, if I was giving advice to my kids, if I was giving advice to anyone, I would say you probably want to seek the job that gets you the money first, and then you instead find your fulfillment from your spare time, which is a sad state of being, but it's why I think we've moved on to our current position, where we say that I have given this Copper Golem not a great gift, but instead a burden, and that burden is that he'll be working for the rest of his life, which might now be a little bit shorter. Anyway, I think I should leave this place before I spend too long, watching something tragic happening, and this makes a delightful addition to my modern art gallery. But what do you think about work? I would love to know, because this has been a fun video, and if you enjoyed it, I'll see you for the next episode. This Let's Play thing is going down some weird tangents, but I'm enjoying it, and hopefully you are too. You can join to become a member if you want to see the member special half Let's Play episodes, where we dive into things like why I don't collab, or what the deal is of dating fans, or all these fun big questions I'm sure you have. But for now, I'll see you next time. Bye!